Welcome to day 2 of 30 Days of Fall Recipes. And today is a take on apple pie. I was trying to decide, do you like hand pies? But I thought like a slab, an apple pie slab, that's gonna be easier, a little bit faster, and honestly, pretty much the same. So we are making apple pie slab bars. Let's get baking. Essentially, we're starting with a pie crust. You could use whatever your favorite pie crust recipe is. If you're not familiar or haven't made a lot of pie crust, everything needs to be cold. Really, really, really cold. You can do this by hand with like a pastry cutter or where you pinch it with your fingers. I'm doing it in a food processor because that's how I've always made pie dough. But we're gonna do 3 3/4 cups of flour, 1 1/2 tablespoons of sugar, 1/2 tablespoon salt, and then that's 3 sticks of butter that were cubed and put in the freezer. They are not frozen, but they're colder than refrigerator. You only want to process this until your butter is in like small little pieces. So when you feel it, you can tell like there's not big chunks of butter, but lots of small ones. Then we are going to slowly stream in, depends, 1/2 cup to 1 cup of water. And you want your water to be ice water. So I fill a measuring cup with ice and then put cold water on it, let it set, and it will become 32-degree water. And you just stream it in while it's running. You slowly stream in water until it kind of starts to come to a ball. When it starts to come together, you want to stop. It's still going to be a little crumbly, but the more water you add, the tougher the pie dough is. We're going to form it by hand and bring it together the rest of the way. When you dump out your dough, it's still going to be a little bit crumbly, and you just want to kind of piece it together. You do not want to knead it like you would knead a cinnamon roll or something. We do not want all of the butter bits worked in. So we're gonna do a bottom crust and a top crust. You always want your bottom crust to be a little bit bigger. I'm gonna divide it what it looks like in half and then go just a little bit bigger for my bottom crust. And then just take your saran wrap and put your dough on it. You can form it with your wrap. I want this to be a rectangle that we can then, once it chills, just plop out and roll out. Remember, the key is to start with cold ingredients and keep them cold. So this is gonna go into the fridge to continue to chill, and I'm just gonna form the other piece the same way and get them nice and cold. All right, we wanna get our filling ready before we roll out our crust so that it can be put together and put in the oven as quickly as possible so that crust stays cold. So I have peeled, cored, and cubed about 3 1/2 pounds of Granny Smith apples. That is my preferred apple for baking. And now I have 3/4 cup of sugar. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. 3. And then you can add individual spices if you prefer. I'm gonna use cinnamon and apple pie spice. Apple pie spice is replacing nutmeg and allspice, and then it also does have cinnamon in it. I'm gonna do about a rounded teaspoon of each. Cinnamon and apple pie spice. So if you didn't have apple pie spice, you could do some nutmeg, some allspice along with your cinnamon. Pour it over the apples and toss to cook. Oh, I forgot, I also did a squeeze of lemon juice over the apples. So I'm gonna work with 1 piece of dough at a time. This is gonna go on like a jelly roll size thing, kind of like a regular cookie sheet. I think it's like 10 by 15. And we want our bottom piece of dough to be about 3 inches bigger than our pan, so 1 1/2 inch on each side. All right, once you have it rolled out, you want to put it onto a parchment lined baking sheet. It is gonna hang over the edge. You want it to hang over the edge. Kind of press in the corners here a little bit, and then pop this in the freezer while you roll out the next one. All right, so go ahead and once you've got both pie crusts rolled out, you want to dump the apples and all of their juice and spices onto that bottom crust. Spread it out to a nice even layer. We don't want any corners to not have apples. And then just I put my top crust on like a thin cutting board. You can do whatever you like. And drop it on. All right. Now you're just gonna go around and you'll trim off any excess pie crust that you have, and you wanna crimp together your edges. You want a really good seal, so kind of like pinch together to meld the two doughs, and then you can go through and give it a nice little crimp. All right, once we've got our edges nicely sealed, we're just gonna go through and put slits all throughout it. I'm gonna allow steam to escape. And then I'm gonna brush it. You could do an egg wash, or this is like heavy cream all over the top. Ideally, you want to let these cool completely, but I'm headed to a party and need them. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut them. Make sure it's loose. Cut them into whatever size you like. I don't know. Let's see. Let's test one out. And you could also do a drizzle or something on this if you wanted to make it more like Pop-Tart kind of. There we are, apple pie slab. I think people at my party are gonna absolutely love this. Fall's gonna be so much fun. I decided to go ahead and ice them. There's mine. And I like it a lot better. But they're delicious either way. I just hope you guys try them.